Okay.
Yeah.
So NewTechLures.com production, the only company putting physics to fishing and bringing you better fishing tools. Here we are in Cassville, Missouri with Bo James.
Well, a couple things that I wanted to go over tonight. One thing that we didn't show you about this Camhead technology, I'm going to put this in the old Fooster. I'm going to turn it completely upside down, and you can see it's completely spun a 180. And try to see if you get your jigs to do that.
That is Camhead
That's why it
technology.
hooks. The other thing is guide arm maintenance, because there's going to be times when you catch your bass and you've got to mash down on that and really pry. And one thing to remember with this jig is it actually travels in an arc as it goes through the fish. So instead of just trying to push the hook straight, you want to roll it, and you'll have a lot easier time getting the hook out. But anyway, if you get your guide arms all mashed and mangled like that, don't worry about it. All you got to do is pull them back up, flex them, you're ready to go again. Just as simple as that right there.
Simple guide arm maintenance. Now show them what you need to do if you're fishing in heavier cover or less cover.
If you're not fishing around a lot of cover and everything, you can actually take and see how I laid the guide arms way down so it's got a lower angle. But when you're fishing in something really heavy that's got a lot of pressure against that, all you got to do is just simply pull them up away from the hook point. You got more pressure, more resistance, and some more snag resistance, but it doesn't affect the hook in any.
Just showing you some guide arm maintenance, because we know you guys aren't used to these solid guide arms.
Yep, but that's something you can't do with a bristle bundle.
Correct.
Just can't do it. Doesn't have the as much flexibility, the rebound, and everything that these solid arms do. That's why the solid arm technology's way better. Some of you guys were worried about this gold hook, but I'll assure you that that gold hook is plenty stiff. And I want to discuss something called hooks and pull lines. And here is a popular worm hook that many people like to use, and it's a light wire hook, and I detest them. And the reason why is when the hook point's trying to go through, they lead you to believe that it penetrates easier, but we're going to use this old cardboard box here for a demonstration. So we're going to pull that, and I want you to watch the hook point starting to flex. See that? I had to put a lot of pressure on that to ever get that through the fish. The other thing that people that like this extra wide gap style, if you notice the way this thing is made, it puts the pull line immediately underneath the barb. See that?
Pull line's way too high.
Okay, so the reason that that's not good is this right here. So I can't even get it through there. All right, so we've got it through this fish, and that fish starts pulling away from you.
I can't see with your hand there.
Did you see that? It popped the hook out. Is the hook even hooked over there?
No, it's not. It hooked right out.
It's out. Bass does the same thing to you. Now, you take a round bend hook, like what we use
in the new jig.
The same bass, he's trying to swim away from you. You can't even, the hook's still in him.
Oh no, point the box toward me. Yeah.
See, the hook's still in there. Can't get the hook out. That's why.
Let me see how deep in the throat that's grabbing there.
I'll stick it in there again. So I'll stick those down. You can see you can't pry the hook out.
Just way too deep in the throat.
Yeah, because the pull line's clear down at the bottom of that bend. The pull line on this hook is to there.
Look how deep in the throat that is.
Yeah. So that's the difference. That's why extra wide gap hooks, you know, as far as my testing and scientific looking at it, is they're worthless. The other thing is they all line up with the eyelet, the hook point. Well, the hook point. I've opened this one up because we've been around on it. But you can see how much flex there is in that hook, and that's supposed to penetrate easier. It doesn't. Here's this hook in the new jig, the same box.
While you have it right there, Bo, show the up curve on that hook, how quickly it penetrates when it's...
Yeah, if I can get it out.
Roll it out like you taught people.
Alright. See, it starts grabbing instantly.
Stop. Look at the angle on the tip of that up bend. It just grabs immediately. Grab one of... Do we have anything else that could...
Oh, yeah, let's see here. Here's one with a... See, it skips along. Doesn't penetrate.
Yeah.
And you can see, and there's another thing people say, oh, yeah, you need a straight eyelet or whatever that it opens the gap up more. Well, it's true, but there's other things about this eyelet where it's set and everything that you don't realize. And here's one of the things about using a horizontal eyelet that no people realize. You know, a lot of people like the vertical eyelet. Well, with a vertical eyelet, you're losing leverage.
Oh, hold on. Do we want to tell people this? We're going to help them make a better jig.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. But
well, we've already started. The cat's out of the bag.
They still got center base weed guards, so they still got problems.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to turn that around so it's a vertical eyelet. Will you see where the pull line is? If you make that a vertical eyelet in the jig, we'll just use this one. See, it's pulling from the middle of the ring.
That's right.
Okay, now when you make it a horizontal eyelet, you're pulling from the very top of the ring all the time, which means you have more leverage.
Move that finger. There you go.
Yeah, you have more leverage to turn the hook up.
Hold that hook straight up and down. See how that line's right at the top of the eyelid?
Yeah, you're always pulling from the very top of that ring instead of down on the side of it.
And that is leverage.
That's leverage. So you have more leverage to help stand that hook up in the fish's mouth.
Yeah.
So people, don't understand that, but...
And one thing about this hook, do we want to talk about the compound bends in it, or?
Yeah, here's another thing. Most jigs on the market, there's very few. In fact, I brought, where's our box? Right here. This is a owner hook here that will be in the Pro Series. And you see it has a compound bend in the neck. But what that does, so that's two 30-degree bends, which is a total of 60. But what that does is most jigs that use that 60-degree bend, I don't have one in there, but I wish I had one of those hooks. But anyway, what happens, the leg is longer. So if you measure from the top of that leg, you can see how deep in the throat. It opens up almost the entire throat. That's about as good as you can get other than having a straight shank hook. But with a straight shank hook, you have no lever to help turn that hook up. Now, all the popular jigs on the market have a single 60-degree leg, and it comes up higher, and that's what you've got. So there's a lot of difference between having that much of the throat open or having that much of the throat open. So that's some of the technology in this jig. It's not just something that's just thrown out there and whatever. There's been, a lot of thought, study, and science go into this thing. And, you guys will just have to try it. I know there's a lot of people say, well, this thing here's not like a bass's mouth. Well, the truth is, I built this thing before I built this jig. And I built this so I could see what was going on with these jigs, so I could understand the science of what was going on from a mechanical aspect. And it's just like this head right here. As I said, there's a lot of difference in heads. A pointy head like that, it has nothing there, no matter what angle you pull from. It never tries to stand that hook up. It comes through at a flat angle. I can pull from straight up, and it finally tried to roll.
Weed Guard fights it over every time.
So unless you're pulling from a straight up angle, so if you're flipping, most of the time you're going to have an angle about like that. Did you see that hook, that head even try to roll the hook up at all?
No.
Nothing. And so you guys that like those roundy, pointy heads for fishing through grass, they're pretty non-hooking. I mean, I'm not saying you don't catch some fish on them, but you're missing strikes you should be catching, and you're losing a lot of fish that you shouldn't lose. So that's just a little more of the technology in this head.
Now these boys that like the big old wide gap hook, now that makes sense. If you're in a center-based Weed Guard, I could see why they would want to go to a big old wide gap hook.
There's no sense in it if it hooks properly.
Uh-huh.
In fact, everybody will do better with a smaller hook, because if it's stiff enough and you get a good set, it's going to penetrate easier than a bigger hook, as long as it's stiff enough to hold the hook point straight. Now that's why I say I have no use for these flimsy hooks, because it doesn't keep the hook point. When you set the hook point here, that line needs to stay in a line with, see how that's starting to turn away? The pull line of the line pulling here towards my hand, but you see the angle that the hook point's going?
Mm-hmm.
It's pointing up in the air now. So that's going away, so it's just going to tend to just skip along in the fish's mouth instead of penetrating through. Now with these stiff hooks, there's no give to it. It stays lined up. So that's why I say it takes very little pressure. Boom. I mean, I hardly even pulled on that
Do that
thing.
again. Do that. That was unbelievable.
All right. Very little pressure.
Look how easily that pops through.
All right. I'll put this so-called easy penetrating thing in there.
You can hear how difficult that was.
Yeah. Got to put a lot more pressure on it. You can see it flexing.
Yeah,
I'm putting a lot of pressure, probably 2 to 3 times more pressure than to pull this big hook through there.
Flexing in the throat.
So, any type of hook, even whether it's big or small, if they're flimsy like that, I just don't. They won't do as good a job as a stiff hook. Hook can be small, but it needs to be stiff. So that's our tips for today.